Hello, how is everybody? My name is Cris. I am a Talk to the Entities facilitator, and this is going to be a little taste of what Talk to the Entities is. So I'll tell you a little bit about how did this crazy thing called Talk to the Entities started like for me. Um, it started with my daughter. She was seeing a little boy in her room, and at first, I was a little bit scared, or so I thought. I was actually really excited. And there was this little boy who she kept seeing, and it was not a big deal. But by then, I had already started using the tools of access consciousness. And so I knew that there was something called Talk to the Entities. And so I asked the facilitator about it, and he helped me with a clearing. And that was kind of like my first experience that I had with ghosts and the Talk to the Entities facilitation. And so after that, there was very much peace in my home. This little boy didn't really show up again. And then the gift that this was for me, I could have never imagined. So this kind of piqued my interest for me to go more into the Talk to the Entities world. And I started with like a small communicating with entities class. And I just started to get more and more pulled into all of this that is Talk to the Entities. And one of the huge gifts that it gave me that I had no idea, I would have never imagined, is how much it helped with my depression, my anxiety, a lot of like my social anxiety changed a lot. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about talking to entities, is how much it can really make your life easier in so many ways. I would have never imagined that this would help with my depression and the anxiety that I had, but actually, a lot of it was how aware I already was of them. So, how many of you may not know yet that you are already aware of entities, that you may already be perceiving entities, that entities are everywhere? So, I don't know how many of you know, but there are actually more beings with no bodies than beings with bodies. And so they really are all around us all the time. And so this opened up a lot of space for me. And one of like the simplest tools that I would like to give you today is the clearing for the entities. A lot of entities are ready to leave. And a lot of times this may surprise you, but a lot of them don't even know that they no longer have a body. That's really what an entity is a being without a body. And so if you perceive something, this question might come up of like, okay, well, I wonder, do you know that you don't have a body anymore? And just that simple question can change the whole energy in a room, in a whole house. So these tools are so easy to use. They're so potent. And actually, they have nothing to do with spells or really witchcraft the way we might imagine. It is actually much more simpler and much more everyday. And so this tool is a whole bunch of questions. Is truth, who are you? Who were you before that? 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 And before that? And before that? Who were you before that? And truth, who will you be in the future? Now, just with those questions, we are giving the entity the choice of choosing something different. A lot of times what happens is that the entity thinks it has no choice. It doesn't really remember all these lives that it had and all these other possibilities that there are for the entity in the future. And so by you asking this question, you kind of give them a choice. The other part of it is truth. What is your job? What was your job before that? What was your job before that? What was your job before that? And you will say that until the energy changes. What was your job before that? What was your job before that? In truth, what will your job be in the future? And again, it's just a set of questions that we're asking the entity to kind of allow it to realize, hey, maybe I don't have a body. Hey, maybe I don't have to be stuck in this identity. And something that I would really like to bring up is like this idea of like, how would you like to be treated when you no longer have a body? And I love that question. And I love the space that questions open up because it's like, it's just a simple question, right? But it kind of brings up like a different possibility. Like, okay, if I choose to step out of my body, how would I like to be treated? Which kind of leads me to this other side of this. A lot of, well, let's just say a misconception about this whole talk to the entities thing is that once you open the door to the entities, you're going to have to do job. It's going to be a job. It's going to be a full-time job or a part-time job. You're going to have to be cleaning entities, communicating. You're going to have to be doing all these things. Well, what if that's not necessarily truth? So let's say you're walking down the street. You see a lot of people walking down the street. Do you feel the obligation to talk to every single one? Imagine if you felt the obligation, the need, like, okay, every single person that walks through the street, I have to say hi to them. I have to see how they are. I have to maybe invite them to something different. That sounds exhausting. That sounds absolutely exhausting. So what if it doesn't have to be like that? What if it could be more, um, what if these tools can give you a new possibility and for something different to be created? And I'm wondering if there are any questions. I'd love to answer maybe a couple of questions. So I'm wondering what else comes up for people when I say the word entities? So how much of like the energy and like the barriers and maybe the judgments or the confusion that there is around entities comes from like all these past lives we had and all these maybe fun things and maybe not so fun things that we did with the entities that we might still have that energy of like, oh, I don't want to do that again. So everything that is, would you, all that energy and that heaviness that brought up, would you like to dissipate and release from your body? Allow that energy to become something else. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, what I had put for this taster was knowing what you know. Um, that's been another one of the gifts of Talk to the Entities for me. I had no idea that I knew about entities the way I do. I had no idea that I was so aware and could perceive all the subtleness of energy. So a lot of times we tend to think that what's real is like the heaviness of the limitations and the problems, and whether it may be like problems in relationship, problem with money, and we get so caught up in it. But this curriculum, like, it just invites you to listen to the whispers and the gifts that the universe has to give you. So like maybe life doesn't have to be so hard. Maybe you don't have to live the rest of your life avoiding the entities. Maybe it's possible to include them, and maybe things don't have to be hard. Maybe there's also magic to life. Maybe there's also miracles. And so I wonder, what is it that you know that brought you here, for the people who are here and for the people who will be watching this video in the future? I wonder, what is it that you know when you see the word entities? What do you know about it? And just perceive for a moment, to know what you know to such a level in which nobody else can call you crazy. what would that be like for you? Like, how powerful would it be for you to know what you know, for you to know that you're aware, to start to maybe even acknowledge that you might have some capacity, some abilities. In the case of like anxiety and depression, and a lot of times sadness and anger, and other symptoms of entity awareness, like allergies and uncontrollable coughing, and all these other things that show up, it's like, okay, if you are not wrong about everything you're perceiving, I wonder, is it maybe an ability and a capacity that you have with entities or with something else that you haven't yet acknowledged? And so, in order for us to fit into this normal reality, right? We cut off all these pieces of ourselves and we cut off everything that we know in favor of other people. And so I wonder what else is possible there. If for every symptom that you had, you were able to ask a question, I wonder what you're aware of. And I wonder what else is possible. The world of entities is a huge one. There is also spirits of the earth. I wonder how many of you maybe weren't aware that some of you might have played already with these beings when you were little, when you were a kid. How aware were you before you started to build the walls between you and the spirit world? How aware were you already? I wonder how many times did you play with these beings and what they were inviting you to. So what are they inviting you to now? What if these abilities and capacities, they no longer have to be a burden, but they can be a gift? And even crazier, what if you could even receive money? Another one of the gifts of Talk to the Entities is whenever you stop avoiding something. So like, let's say entities, if you start to avoid your awareness of entities that you might not even know you have, and you start to change that, well, your receiving expands because your receiving is, let's just put it like, it's energetic. So as soon as you stop avoiding something, your receiving increases. That means more money, and that means more magic, more possibilities. And what else? And what else? And what else? And what else? And so let's do the clearing again, just because I perceive like there's still a lot of entities that are asking to maybe choose something different. So let's get super present with our bodies and perceive your body now before the clearing. What are you perceiving in your room right now? In your building, in your home, in your city? How truly aware are you? Oh, and so truth, who are you? Who were you before that? Who were you before that? Who were you before that? And who will you be in the future? What was your job? What was your job before that? Before that? Before that? What will your job be in the future? Truth. Who are you? Who were you before that? Before that? Before that? Who will you be in the future? Truth. What was your job? What was your job before that? Before that? Before that? Truth. What will your job be in the future? And all of the magnetic imprintings that they might have left in your body, will you now dissipate and release? Dissipate and release, dissipate and release. That just means allowing the energy to become something else, to transform. And also what comes up for me is a lot of people try to avoid talk to the entities because they're scared of like the not so happy, not so colorful entities. Well, I wonder what else is possible if you were to go past that fear, go beyond the fear, go beyond the doubt. How much more of you would you have? And also, just know that talk to the entities, which by the way, it was totally an accident, but I do have my manual here. You get a whole manual with a lot of tools. It's a big one, in my opinion. It's a big manual. It's a beautiful manual. There are exercises with receiving and cooperating with entities. We do talk about the not so pleasant entities, like I was saying, but what if consciousness includes everything? And what if that doesn't mean you necessarily have to do something creepy, right? Because that may come up, like do something creepy with these entities that are not so nurturing. But what if you didn't have to avoid them? What if you could be aware of them? What if that's what inclusion is? Not necessarily saying, okay, well, now I'm going to start to play with the demons. I don't know how fun that would be. But what if you could include your awareness of it? And through that inclusion of your awareness, how much could you really change? How much would you transform your life? I wonder how many of you would like to have a life full of miracles, full of magic, and with something that is totally out of the ordinary, like totally not normal, but something that is there all the time. And so I wonder how much more ease could you have? And could we have? How much more ease could we have in every aspect of our lives? And I really do mean that. Money, relationships, maybe finding a home for you or traveling. I wonder what the gifts would be. And whenever I say that, I just get so excited. So I wonder if anybody has any questions, anything that may come up before we end this little taster. I will give you a couple seconds. Well, I'm so grateful everybody's here. And we're going to be having Talk to the Entities classes in Wisconsin. We're going to have the Talk to the Entities Spirits of the Earth on July 3rd. It's going to be more of a afternoon night class. And then the intro, same thing, afternoon night class is going to be live and online. There's going to be Spanish translation. And then Saturday and Sunday, we have the whole beginning class. That's where you get the manual, you get the diploma. And after you take that class, you're able to take the intermediate, which takes you even farther into your abilities and your capacities and playing with entities and everything else that is possible. So thank you so much. I will be posting this and there will be more information down below.